so I'm hoping that that doesn't happen again. I'm hoping that I can hold things together here. This was not my fault. Yes, believe it or not, even though I'm a tech boomer, this time it was not me that actually caused the issue. It was StreamYard's doing. I have no exact idea what happened. Anyways, we'll get right into the news and so forth. First, we have a link in the description to a YouTube video. Summer is a-coming in, actually, because it is May 1st. That means that it's time to watch Wicker Man again, of course, with Christopher Lee. One of the best movies ever made. Yeah, it's definitely on my top 10 list. I'd say it'd be Brotherhood of the Wolf, Ninth Gate, Jurassic Park, and then probably the original Wicker Man. I have not watched the newer Wicker Man, and I'm probably glad that I have not, because it looks like a pile of steaming horse shit, honestly. So yeah, I have no clue what happened, but we'll get right on it. David Hogg is in some hot water at the moment. It looks like he might actually get tossed out as DNC vice chair, which I find funny. I did cover that this morning as well. But I thought that it was funny to cover it again because it's just a little bit of schadenfreude, I suppose. We've got the bill text, Texas HB 366, 89th Legislature, Committee Sub. Yes, the Texans are trying to effectively outlaw certain classes of memes. This is some Soviet shit right here. And Texas is normally one of the more pro-free speech, free expression states. So I don't know exactly what the hell they're doing, actually, at the moment. Oh, I've got myself on in triplicate, accidentally. Whoops. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's because I've got to unpause and repause. Okay, there we go. That's actually the case. I always got to say that during a live stream. The U.S. and Ukraine have signed a mineral deal, rather. Sorry about that. After months of fraught negotiations. Yes, indeed. This is, I think, more for military strategic purposes than anything else. I'll get into that later. We've got to talk about those carnivorous bone collector caterpillars that were mentioned yesterday. This is just more scientifically interesting. I like insects. I have since I was a small child. One of the first jobs I wanted to be in was entomologist. I thought that sounded fascinating. Unfortunately, I missed my calling. I don't get to play with ants all day. Instead, I have to talk about the news. Trump's throwing everything at Maine. The state's governor, Janet Mills, offended the president's delicate sensibilities and thus began a war on his bucolic corner of New England. Yeah, it's totally Trump's fault. Yes, because he's got a shattered ego. And then we've got NASA's Webb capturing auroras, actually, over on Neptune. So more science news, actually, as well. So we're going to be talking about all of this stuff. Yeah, last week in Mineral Meal. Yeah, that's going to become a meme. Yeah, Tin Dam, Mineral Meal. Yeah. Sometimes I misspeak. It happens to the best of us. Just look at George W. Bush, you know? But yeah, when I was a kid, I loved bugs, especially ants, actually. There was one time, funny story, there was, after you do your exams, you have a few days off where you can pretty much just dick off. You have to go to school, but you don't really have anything to do. And there were some old rice patties, actually, like those Rice Krispie, the round ones made out of rice, crisped rice. And they were swarming with ants. And I told another kid, haha, I'm going to eat this. And he was like daring me to do it. And so I did. Now, the rice patty actually tasted terrible. It was stale. It was retarded. But then I started picking ants off of it and eating them. And he's like all disgusted and, didn't understand what the hell was going on. And it was pretty funny. Yeah. I ate the bugs before it was cool. Last week, and if you want to say Mineral Meal again, you're going to have to do a super chat or a rumble rant. My mind works in weird ways. Don't we all? Yeah, Nicolas Cage shouldn't be cast in any movie, The Swamp Cleaner, because he's retarded. He doesn't know what he's doing. Talk about overacting. I'd get him and John Travolta on set, and it'd be, like a slapstick comedy, I suppose, or something like that. Bretling and Last Beacon seem to hate each other. Just to be clear, I do not generally permaban people from the channel. I will only do that if someone is attacking a subscriber and defaming them or something like that, or, posting links to illegal content, spamming or something like that. Then they can get banned. Otherwise, temporary bans only. VV, terrible opinion. Nicolas Cage is great. I don't believe so. Oh, John Lincoln, yeah, I'll be covering the Razor Fist saga tomorrow. He already addressed it on a Twitter post, actually. Apparently, there's some real gay op sort of trolling going on, trying to claim that he's a groomer. I looked at the evidence that he presented, and I am not convinced that he is. I don't believe that he's into that. If anything, he's the sort of person that I would imagine has, like, an older lady with huge tits on the back of his motorcycle. So, I don't think that happened. King of Biltong, what is this sorcery? Lots of it. So yeah, let's get right into the news. But first, we've got to talk about Cultivated Mind, actually. We've got Doggy Dose. Yes, indeed. Cultivated-mind.com. You can also get mushroom pills there as well. These are for the humans. These are for the doggos. Everyone wants their doggo to live a little bit longer. Well, give them Doggy Dose. It's got a bunch of double bioactivated mushroom extracts in it. It also smells pretty good, and I'm not going to lie, you could probably like boil one of these off in a bowl of water and eat it. And it would probably be palatable. It smells actually pretty good. It's got Alaskan salmon. Let's see, what are the ingredients? Coconut flour, pasture-raised eggs, pumpkin puree, bone broth, coconut glycerin, wild Alaskan salmon oil, beef liver, and turmeric. Turmeric, one of my favorite spices, by the way, so again, it's probably a reason why I like the smell of it. Yeah, Doggy Dose from cultivated-mind.com. That's what I'm talking about. And of course, I take the mushroom pills every day. In fact, I'll probably take another one of them in a few minutes. So yeah, let's get into the, before we get to the other sponsors, as well as Cultivated Mind again, we've got to talk about the news. Native American woman gets a chance to topple Hogg at DNC. Yes, indeed, our own favorite David Hogg, the ultimate self-serving, egotistical asshole, who has quite literally made a career on the death of his fellow students, which is not considered grotesque in any way by people on the left because they hate guns so much. It looks like he might be out of a job soon. There's a complaint that's been filed, actually, by the candidate who did not win against him. And it looks like it might actually carry, and I'll tell you why. David Hogg is not well liked at the moment within the Democratic Party. They may distance themselves and simply ignore the issue in public as much as they want. I can guarantee he has raised more than a few headaches with the party. He's trying to, keep in mind, again, he's the vice DNC chair. He has raised, personally and with associates, $20 million to primary out incumbent candidates within the Democratic Party. Literally, this is the equivalent of taking your gun on the battlefield and shooting yourself several times in the leg. That's the equivalent of what David Hogg is doing. And he's doing it partially for attention and partially because he's a retard. He believes that he's going to lead some sort of revolution within a very, very sick uniparty system, which is going to culminate in, I guess AOC being president and Bernie Sanders being Secretary of State or something like that. He's insane. This is an insane thing to do before the midterms. But he doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. He's getting paid regardless. He's probably making six figures. I mean, more power to him. Do what you want to do. But he's definitely doing huge damage to the Democratic Party at the moment. He's lost it, basically. He is so self-serving that he doesn't even care that the party that he's partially guiding at this point as DNC, co-chair, vice chair rather, He doesn't even care if the party collapses. He literally doesn't give a shit. David Hogg is one of the most self-serving people I have ever seen within U.S. politics. It's almost like carpetbagging. It's like, okay, my classmates got shot, therefore you owe me a job. And he did work up to it, honestly. He did do a good job of getting himself jury-rigged into that position. Now it's the Democratic Party's problem. And it's not clear that they're going to be capable of getting rid of him, which is great. This is, by the way, a win-win scenario for people who are despising the Democratic Party. Let's say they keep Hogg on. He will continue to attack his own party inexplicably while raising money for that cause and ignoring other causes. A little bit like the RNC with regards to several Senate races, including in Alaska during the 2020 election. So, you have some self-deprecation there. If he gets kicked out, we get to see him humiliated and cast aside as a pariah and never fucking work again. I can't lose. I'm fine with either outcome. I find it hilarious, actually. The thing is, he'll probably be retained. I don't think that the challenge to him will actually be successful in the end. But if it is, that's great too. So we literally cannot lose. We are going to have another Chaz moment. It will be hilarious. Either the Democratic Party effectively commits partial suicide, or the Democratic Party kicks him out. He complains and bitches. Maybe he goes Ted Nugent mode and starts becoming a survivalist and talks out against the Democratic Party. That's also a possibility. So we can't lose. It's amazing. It's one of those great moments where, you always have a good outcome because it doesn't matter which outcome you have. This one pisses me off, though. The Hogg story is funny. This one is not particularly funny. Bill title relating to required disclosures on certain political advertising that contains altered media creating a criminal offense. Spectrum, partisan bill, Republican 1-0, status engrossed, received from the House. Texas is attempting to make it effectively a crime to present any sort of AI-generated material without labeling AI-generated. Now, if I make a picture of Cthulhu trying to sell ketchup to people, the average person, the average reasonable, sane individual knows that's not actually an image of something real. They know that it's a fake image. When we have cases where people are being misrepresented, like let's say that somebody takes my face and my image and runs it through ChatGPT or Grok or something like that, and they make it pornographic in nature. I'm just going to chuckle at it. It's called having a sense of humor. In fact, I've given people explicit permission to do that as long as it's not monetized, unless they're sharing the revenue with me. If you want to make pornographic images of me and share the revenue 50-50, well, that's okay with me, because it's not real. It's not actually a real image. When celebrities especially bitch and moan about the fact that other people are taking their image, their likeness, and running it through a computer and spitting out images of them in lewd poses or doing things that they didn't actually do or whatever, unless there is a fiscal component, I think shut the fuck up. Don't worry about it too much. They're not even making any money on it. They're literally satirizing you. What's wrong with that? I don't understand what the problem is. Texas, meanwhile, as one of the states that generally is more pro-free speech and free expression, has decided that it wants to proceed with a legal framework, and, I don't know that it's passed yet, but they're trying it, in which people could be shielded from even being satirized by AI. So, in other words, I have to label an image of Chuck Schumer as being AI generated, or a video of Nancy Pelosi shitting in the street, which is clearly not real and clearly satirical. I have to label that? That makes absolutely no sense at all. This is a war on memes more than anything else. It's also a solution waiting for a problem. AI is not capable yet of generating realistic images, generally speaking. It's capable of generating cartoon caricatures of people. It's capable of generating some warped shit, actually. Like I ran a picture through the other night, and I just threw Grok and used some random prompts, and all of a sudden it looked like Kali Ma was stomping around in an alpine meadow, spreading lava around. That was like 5 prompts in. So it's not sophisticated enough that it's actually a threat to anyone's intellectual property or anything like that. It may become that way. It certainly will advance and become more and more realistic. And you'll have more and more capabilities to, utilize the AI. That's definitely true. But right now, you're creating a solution for a problem that isn't even real. It's not even real. People are so worried about AI all the time and clutching their pearls and stuff like that. And they're always talking about, oh my God, somebody might create fake nudes of my child or something like that. And it's like, well, that's illegal to begin with, so you don't need an additional bill anyway. It would be harassment and potentially other charges that you're talking about. Bribery or something like blackmail. That's number one. And number two, no reasonable person, again, looking at those images is going to find them realistic. They're not real. When somebody has an extra hand in the picture, you might suspect that it might be AI. Just saying. Copium poppies. A lot of accounts, including our own on X, getting falsely labeled as probable spam. Brought it to Premium's attention, and they refused to comply with the request to stop and won't acknowledge it happening. Not a good look on the ex-Elon's part, blatantly committing libel against their paying customers. If you have a blue check mark, you are not probable spam. I would agree with you. If somebody's paying for the friggin' account, they should generally overlook it. Joe, when you say you aren't conservative, what is your definition of conservative versus liberal versus progressive? Well, progressives, that would be insanity. So I would just say that's the nut ward. With conservative versus liberal, it depends on the issue. Because people tend to fall into fairly cookie-cutter dichotomies with regards to many issues. So, for example, on guns, I side with the far right, actually, on guns. I think that everyone should be able to mail order a machine gun. I fall fairly right on the spectrum on taxes. I don't mind if my taxes are being used for uplifting the poor or national defense, things like that. But I don't really want it to be used to randomly bomb people in third world countries. Just not my bag. I would fall more on the liberal side, as stereotypically inclined. And I realize the nuance beyond this particular so-called dichotomy, but that's how most people think, so we've got to use those terms. I would be more liberal on things like abortion, to an extent. I don't believe in Ralph Northam abortions. LGBTQ stuff, I don't have any problem with people who are gay or lesbian or anything like that. All I ask, and that's why I'm a liberal, all I ask is that children not be involved. Please do not read sphincterbation stories to children in 5th grade elementary schools. That's literally all that I'm asking. That's not even a conservative opinion. I think that that's more of a common sense, no shit opinion, but, apparently some people didn't get the memo. BW, I agree with the law. Sticks, AI is getting so real that they will soon be able to make you look like a pedo or doing something illegal. I don't think a disclaimer is a big deal. Remember Brad Pitt, lady? Yeah, no, I don't agree with you, actually. I disagree. Because, forensic analysis is a thing, number one. Number two, people, generally speaking, if you're being targeted by that sort of thing, you're probably a public figure. The people that are part of your entourage, so to speak, are going to know that it's not real. And you can always just come out and make a video or something and say, look, this is bullshit. It's never actually happened. It's AI generated. Look at the pixelation or something like that. Copium poppies. Overlook what? They put blanket labels on people's accounts calling them spam and platform manipulators and hide legitimate non-spammy posts. Yeah, I know. I agree with you. It's a huge problem. Yeah, they've been doing that for a while. It's better now than it was in the Agrawal days. Back then, it was more like, hey, you get straight up banned for life because, you had an opinion that Agrawal didn't like. Now it's a little bit better. But still, it is suppression. Absolutely. I do not disagree with you. King of Biltong. I am not talking much. Am in production. Did not prepare for a stick stream this time of the day. Yeah, but it's May Day, so I need to go out on a hike and stuff like that. Joe, AI is the new Photoshop. That's all. Yeah, it's just exactly true. It's literally nothing more than a more sophisticated version of Photoshop, although I do admit some of the videos and material that I've seen is rather impressive. Video, audio, pictures, and so forth. Some of it's rather impressive. It's way, way light years better than what we had maybe 10 years ago. But it's still not so sophisticated that it's fully believable. You know, when somebody, again, has a hand sticking out of their hand, it's probably AI generated. Just saying. A reasonable person would probably believe that. U.S. and Ukraine signed landmark minerals deal after months of fraught negotiations. Yes, indeed, the U.S. Is going to invest heavily in Ukraine in return for return in minerals, basically. This is for various purposes. Now, the first purpose is quite self-evident. It's economics. You know, basically, we need these minerals for our manufacturing. You need money, and so everyone benefits. Okay, that makes sense. But there is another reason behind it. They're not going to admit to it for strategic reasons, of course. But I can guarantee if the United States moves investment and machinery and personnel and so forth into Ukraine and begins extracting the minerals, because the U.S. would be directly involved in overseeing, it provides a bulwark against the Russians because they're not really going to want to bomb positions in which there are U.S. personnel. That's the other purpose is strictly military in nature, 100%. I can guarantee that that's part of the strategy. It's not just that we want the minerals. I mean, we do. We kind of need them. You know, Taiwan could be overridden at any point, too. There's a reason why the U.S. is showing increased interest and activity in that region as well. Not only do we need the minerals, though, we want to prevent the Russians from advancing further. This is to prevent a wider catastrophe, because if Russia moves further into Ukraine, number one, the Europeans will start to get nervous, and that's a big problem. They'll start to rearm even more. Number two, Russia could end up in a situation where it ends up getting ground down, actually. And a cornered animal is the most dangerous animal you can encounter. Number three, Ukraine could be completely overrun, potentially, and then, well, we've lost access to those resources. Yeah, God damn it. Well, there's no more sunflower oil production in the Western world because the Russians gobbled it all up. All of these scenarios would be a problem. So what you do is you station U.S. personnel, executive, military, and so forth around Ukraine, and start extracting the minerals. And the Russians don't dare to actually attack those locations because they risk a wider war, a much more hot war than even is happening now. One that's so hot that it burns with the power of the sun, namely atomic war. They probably would not be willing to do so. And so I think that's the greater strategy actually being employed at the moment. Copium poppies, but yeah, there needs to be a class action suit against X for committing libel against legitimate users. It's the only way they will stop. Yeah, the problem being you would then be starting a lawsuit against the richest man in the world. That would be a little bit difficult. BW. Say it's not real only makes you look more guilty in public eyes. I think this is necessary. Just imagine how it will be weaponized against conservatives, especially since left is usually better at tech. Oh no. Oh no. This will backfire greatly, because the left has shown itself to be completely inept at memes. Actually conveying a message via image, audio, video, whatever medium it happens to be, that's more the forte of the right wing, actually, at this point. It has been since the Pepe era. They've sort of fallen into step with regards to that, And then the left that used to capitalize on technology more, like in the website era, like standalone websites and shit, early social media, has really fallen on hard times. It's all a bunch of astroturf bullshit. You know, you get the Sissons of the world and weird twerps like that. Let's get to our sponsors before we get to the second half of the news, shall we? We have cultivated-mind.com, again, where you can get mushroom pills for yourself, boost energy, boost neuroregeneration, quite literally, by the way. I've experienced this myself, anecdotally. And now, you can also get some good stuff for your doggies, for your doges, your doggos, puppers, and cute puppers. You can get that. And it's bioactivated with 6 different mushroom extracts. They are cold extracted instead of, you know, boiled out. And so you get more of the actual active components in it, which makes sense, actually. And I think he said he was like one of the only people that was actually doing this. It uses photorenaissance, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it uses, yeah, I can't remember, but it's some sort of sonic related thing that they do, which is actually fascinating. I mean, I'm wondering, is this dude like a PhD in chemistry or something? So get that there, use code STICKS. Also code STICKS on all the other sites that I'm listing out. BiltongUSA.com or AntonsUSA.com. He can sell you meat. Still got a little bit of the biltong left. Also, anytime that I mention Anton, I must sample some bovrite because it is delicious. He's a South African. He thinks I'm crazy for doing that. Honestly, it's got a nice yeasty, beefy flavor. It is rather salty, but the taste is delicious. Be great in a soup. It has a mild undertone of celery, if I can detect it. Possibly. I'm not 100% sure. But also, you got Wagyu, you got bison, you've got Angus, you've got Cabanassi, you've got game meats, you've got pretty much everything under the sun that you could possibly need for a good camping adventure. Yeah, and then when the bear comes up and tries to eat you, you throw it a couple of Angus sticks. It'll leave you alone, probably. It would much rather eat them than you. And finally, jamandbean.com. That is J-A-M-N bean.com. The home of the Clanker blend, which I sniff every single day. And I just realized, by the way, I'm a lucky man. I realized I still had a couple of packs of coffee in the bedroom, actually, that were behind the record player. I took the record player out to listen to some vinyl earlier, and I realized I had a couple more of them. And I was like, yes, it's a great day. Also, great teas available as well. So yeah, I have a lot of cool shit around here. King of Biltong, this is a great time slot for your show. Talking about shows, we stream Fridays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Join the banter and cooking by following our channel, rumble.com/c/eat@Antons. Try Carmine's range of functional red teas infused with functional ingredients to help you through your day. Available on BiltongUSA.com. 10% off for Sticks listeners only. Use code STICKS. Excellent. Copium poppies, yes, but a class action lawsuit would be a ton of people against him. Elon would not be able to contain that backlash by banning people and having astroturfed influencer shills singing his praises. Considering his political capabilities and his level of wealth, he probably could. That's the problem. Andon saying, I am going to try some stuffed bacon-wrapped onion rings tomorrow. That sounds delicious, actually. Man, you gotta market those. Speaking about news, we have to get to the next article. This is something that was brought up the other day, and it's insane, actually. I was not aware of the existence of this species. Carnivorous bone collector caterpillars wear corpses as camouflage. Nicknamed the Bone Collector, this newly confirmed caterpillar in Hawaii secretly scrounges off a spider landlord by covering itself with dead insect body parts. So apparently these caterpillars will literally grab the dead bodies of other insects and use them to basically blend in. Caterpillars are known for their fuzzy exterior and sometimes weird behavior, except those ones in Brazil that are really, really hairy and they have those yellow hairs and they're highly venomous and it can actually kill you. Some vibrate aggressively to scare predators. Others create their own antifreeze to survive the cold. But a newly identified member of the Offbeat Caterpillar Club might be the weirdest of all. Nicknamed the Bone Collector. Yeah, not ominous at all. It builds a disguise from insect cadavers it scrounges from a spider web, covering its body with these spider meal leftovers and occasionally engaging in cannibalism. It took researchers almost 17 years to convince themselves that this behavior was not some kind of anomaly among a couple of individuals. After meticulous observations and fieldwork, they finally confirmed that bone collector caterpillars, with all their macabre eccentricity, are the larvae of a new species that is native to the Hawaiian island of Oahu. This finding was published Thursday in Science. You can read the link in the description for more. This is very, very interesting. Again, as a child, I was really, really interested in bugs. I would spend hours and hours and hours looking at them. I literally conducted my own experiments, sometimes in maybe a more violent manner than the average child, of course. Amputation, electrocution, and so forth. Coliseum combat. I was inventive as a child. But I was doing it in the name of science, so it's perfectly okay. One time, I built this literal coliseum out of Legos. And it had individual holding cells for the insects. And then I would let them out and let them fight each other. And let me tell you, it was great. It was a fun time. I had a great childhood. It was a little bit warped, maybe. There was also a focuser, a focusing arm on the side with a magnifying glass. And so you could execute the insects with that. There was a metal dome, and I learned the hard way that those glass globes that you touch and the lightning inside goes to your fingers, they actually can electrocute you with a relatively low grade of electrocution if any piece of metal is attached to them. I found this out when I unwrapped it at Christmas, and I was fascinated, by the way, at the time. A piece of the metal foil that was covering the gift fell on it, and I went to pull it off, and it electrocuted me. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I said, I wonder how I can, make this better. And so I put a metal ring on top of the globe and attached a metal wire to it and had a paper clip on the end. And then, I had another metal surface. It was like a metal plate, maybe like 3x5 or something like that. It was just an iron plate. I don't know where it was from. And held it, of course, with a non-conductive element, namely a Star Wars character. Yes, Boba Fett was helping me electrocute insects. I'm not shitting you. And I would put the insect on there, and then I would usually shock them in the head first, and that would sort of knock them out, and then I would amputate their limbs and shit like that. Is this grotesque? Yes, in retrospect, but I was a little kid, and I was obsessed with insects and with science, so, fucking sue me. MTRYBA. Most serial killers started killing animals. What a creep. Well, I mean, they're insects. It's not the same. I always had a fond soft spot for like cats and dogs and stuff like that. I'd probably become a serial killer if I saw somebody attacking such an animal. But insects, that's a little bit different. You've crushed some spiders under your heel in your time. But yeah, I had an incineration system. I had an electrocution system. I had a coliseum. Call me weird. Yeah, maybe so, but at least I'm intelligent. Pilgrim Media, do you collect your rainwater? Yes, actually. Yes, we do. Unlike in California, it's actually legal here. King of Biltong, it depends on what you're cooking. If you're cooking soup, then an induction oven or something like that is perfectly fine. Honestly, I kind of prefer the ovens that they have in Europe more than in the United States. Like, the coil ovens we have here, they don't work as well as the ones that you simply, it has a completely flat surface. It's easier to clean. It's more easily temperature controlled, by the way, I've noticed. I liked cooking in the Netherlands, actually. But sometimes you need a grill. One tall order. Speaking of Harry Sisson, has anyone seen him in a while, or is he still locked in that Navy SEAL's basement getting his back blown out? Probably the latter. Swamp Cleaner. Sticks as the Dr. Fauci of the ant world. No, I fondly recall the ant war that I sparked. I've talked about it before, but let me recount it one last time. We had carpenter ants in the house one time. This was 2006 or so. And they were chewing through the wood. And they had a little hole out in the garage where their entrance was. And they were slowly degrading the property. And so I said, well, I'm going to do something about this. And then I got a bright idea. There was a red ant nest. I called them Amazon ants. I'm not sure exactly what species it is. They're the ones that are red and black. And they're vicious, by the way, and they spray acid. And it smells really bad, by the way. And they'll get into you. I went out to the tree stump out there where their nest was. I said, okay, I need to borrow some troops. And so I took a Tupperware container and I quickly pulled the rock up on top that was there. And I scooped up a bunch of the soldiers and then I clamped it shut. I probably had about 100 of them. And then I went back and I dumped them right next to the entrance where the carpenter ants were in. And they proceeded to begin fighting, of course. And it's like, well, if the queen's not there, they're not going to be able to replicate, and they can't find their way back to the nest. So there's no real risk to the structure of them getting in here or anything like that. They're just going to wipe out the carpenter ants, hopefully. And boy, oh boy, was I was I not let down. My troops fought bravely, and they killed the whole fucking colony. When we got back from the restaurant, because we had to go out for lunch, and I got a chili dog, actually. Oh, man, by the way, Seward's. I wish they were still open. They were so good. Got a chili dog. We come back about an hour later, right? And there is a wasteland of dead carpenter ants. It could have been thousands of them. This one squad of red ants managed to cut the entire colony to pieces. I don't doubt that they went in and killed the queen as well. I'm like, well, sucks to be you now, doesn't it? That was pretty great. That was one of the best days in my entire life. Copium Poppies. Rumble seriously needs to upgrade their infrastructure. Getting ridiculous having to switch to YouTube to watch the stream. As a Rumble investor, this pisses me off. Yeah, they do have some problems, yeah, admittedly. But give them a little bit of time to upgrade things. We'll try to have some patience here because we don't really have a choice now, do we? Pilgrim Media. Genetically, red ants have the largest colonies. Yeah, the colony out underneath, well, it was actually a chunk of meteorite, which is funny because they were using it to put their eggs in when I lifted it off. And their colony was extremely dense, yes. And they used to have little, like, areas where they would march through. And I would build them little roads and stuff like that out of thanks because they helped me wipe out the carpenter ants. So I would build them little roads and little fortresses and stuff like that and thought that I was helping them and stuff. This is when I was little, so, you know, this is not adult Sticks, Hex, and Hammer. But yeah, I would clear out little roads. I would put little markers like toothpicks and stuff along them so they had like a little highway system and everything else. I would build them literal forts and so forth and defenses, and I had great hours of fun doing this. I had a fun childhood. Holden Sneedmeyer. So, does the mineral deal attach Trump's name to the coming collapse of the Ukraine government, or will he fall back on it being Biden's war? I don't think it'll collapse. That's the whole point of the mineral deal, actually. Speaking of Trump, let's talk about Trump and Maine. Maine has been naughty, and so Trump is, attacking them on like 5 different fronts. Department of Agriculture, DOA, DEA, DHS, FBI, pretty much everything that he can possibly lob against them. It's not certain that Maine, with its relatively low population and political capabilities, is capable of standing up against an onslaught like this. This has to do with the transgender bill. Maine has decided to defy the federal government with regards to transgendered individuals in women's sports. Trump was not happy about this. It became worse when the governor of the state decided to insult him. And so there is a personal vendetta, admittedly, with regards to this case. That can't be denied. Trump does have a personal vendetta in this particular one. That being said, he's still justified, because the root cause of the entire kerfuffle was justified. That is, that men should not be in women's sports. This is fairly clear. I mean, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Most reasonable, sane people understand this. So if Trump decides to go over the edge and just pile drive the whole fucking state, I don't really have a goddamn problem with it. That being said, it's been analyzed by multiple legal scholars, and they're like, well, Maine's probably going to lose this round. Trump will probably prevail. That's because the executive order, as initially put out, is lawful, has not been itself combated or downed in any way, and so the state of Maine does not have the latitude to defy the order. They don't have the right to do so. It's not within the purview of the 10th Amendment protections that are afforded to a state. So I have a feeling that Janet Mills is going to be out of a job fairly soon. Either that, or the Democrats rally around the issue. You rally around the issue of men and women's sports. Good luck to you. That'll work really well. And manage to get her reelected simply because there are enough liberals in the state or something like that. I like this article too. This is from Washington Monthly. The state's governor, Janet Mills, offended the president's delicate sensibilities and thus began a war on this bucolic corner of New England. Hey, fuckwads, New Englander here. Maine is not bucolic and astute and relaxed. No. Maine is a pile of shit, actually. No offense to anyone out there, a clanker from Maine, but Maine is basically shit. You're the home of Stephen King. There is nothing to do in Maine. Here in Vermont, there are a couple of locations you can go where you can have a reasonably good time. There is nothing in Maine outside of Portland. There is one location you can go in the whole state. The rest of it is a bunch of swamps and Stephen King's personal thousands of hectares of property. That's the only thing that you get there. So you'll excuse me if I'm Team Trump on this particular issue. Bucolic. Yeah, the funny thing is when people talk about a state, but they've never been here. That's why I don't criticize California as much as other anti-left commentators. I can commentate on policy and stuff like that, but I'm not going to badmouth the entire state because I've never been there. I would love to see it, actually. It's just I'd probably get fucking arrested by Gavin Newsom's thugs if I did, but, Sith, yes. Acres and hectares. Both fine. I'm sure Stephen King measures it in the European style. But Maine it's just boring. Old Orchard Beach is kind of fun. But other than that and Portland, what else is there to do? Oh man, I mean, if you like hunting moose, I suppose that Maine is probably the state for you. But generally speaking, I mean, Vermont is party city compared to Maine. Andrew James, what is your response to people still whining about arrests not happening? Give it time. You have to give it time. If they don't fully investigate and get all of the T's crossed and all of the I's dotted, they will fail in these cases against the Epstein people. That's assuming, of course, that they're going to proceed with that. If they intend to do so, and it appears so, they can do one of two things. This is the case with my own legal case, for example. People are encouraging me, well, salvage your reputation, talk about your legal case. That would be great. Yes, I can salvage my public reputation right before I hang myself legally and get fucked in the ass. The legal system, the actual court, is more important than the court of public opinion. The Trump administration knows this. The people on the Epstein list can either be crucified in the public, or you can wait and then you can crucify them in an actual court. The latter is much more effective. And so, that's why a lot of these people have gone radio silent lately. Kaya McGrath, as a child you recreated American foreign policy down to the nation building. Yeah, I built cities and shit out of Legos and stuff like that. I had a literal combat coliseum with bugs. Man, those were fun days. I should do that again. I wish I still had my fucking Lego collection. Sad that I gave it away. Holden Sneedmeyer, so we're going to try to dictate terms to the winner of the war? Tell me your familiarity with the Witkoff versus Kellogg peace plans. I have no familiarity with the latter. What I'm saying is that Russia has won the war, but a limited war. And what I'm saying is that the United States, having moved into place in the rest of Ukraine, can preserve it from being invaded. And then negotiations go from there. Because Russia's not going to start lobbing drone-based explosives at a mineral mine in which there are thousands of U.S. personnel. That's probably not going to happen. The idea is to prevent killing. It's to prevent people from dying. I don't understand why some people, they either think that Ukrainians or Russians, their lives are worthless. I've never thought that way myself. I don't care if you're Ukrainian or Russian. You're still a human. Wasted. Good spooky morning from the grave. We be extra spooky this morning. Oh, somebody didn't get enough sleep and he's got bags under his eyes. Careful, he's hungry. He's gonna chew off your arm. King of Biltong, highest viewership for the last bunch of weeks. Stick to this time slot, Sticks. Really? I'm seeing less. Do you mean on Twitter or something? I can't directly monitor some of the viewership. Cultivated Mind, yes, we love early morning, Sticks. Well, maybe I'll, my circadian rhythm's fucked anyway, so maybe I'll just start going live at this time of day. King of Biltong, looking for some healthy snacks to add to your diet? Yes, please. Try our Biltong, almost half protein, plus it's packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and much more. Go to www.biltongusa.com, code STICKS for 10% off. Highly recommended, by the way. I would recommend get some Cultivated Mind Clank Blend coffee, then get some of Anton's Biltong, and some mushroom pills. So you take one of the mushroom pills with the coffee, down some Biltong, wash it down with more coffee, maybe some tea if you want to. And then you can sample some of the delicious Bovrite. I'm going to freak Anton out again. Apparently this is considered weird. Yeah, ha ha ha. It's great on toast. It is admittedly quite salty, but the taste is so good, it's like, you know, you can't fucking put it down. I've got 2 more containers over there. Would have 3, but the TSA, when I went down to New Orleans, they confiscated one of them. I was trying to bring it down there so I could eat it, but I was unsuccessful in this attempt. Copium poppies. It's been a few years at this point. When should we stop being patient with Rumble? It's not good for investors to constantly have outages, and definitely doesn't look good when suggesting the site to new people. I still like Rumble, just the same as I like BitChute. BitChute has declined in its usership as well, although there are probably big things coming fairly soon with regards to them. That being said, I will still always support alt tech, or new tech, as I've begun calling it. King of Biltong, too salty! Too salty is going to end up becoming A new catchphrase on the channel. Weird. I hope Australia doesn't end up like Canada. Well, at least your weather would be better, so you've got that for you. Australians are insane. Again, there's that one story where they had to retreat from an attack from, I can't remember, I think it was World War II. And they took like water pots and they drilled small holes in them so they would slowly drip out, so that the water bottle would slowly go up. And then they attached them to rifles that they put next to basically dummies of themselves. And so the rifles would randomly fire off. So the enemy believed that they were still there. And it's like an hour later, they had retreated, 10 miles or some shit like that. Don't mess with the Australians. Or the Vietnamese. Only one fighting force in the world was capable of subjugating them, and then only partially, and that's the French. And they only managed that because, the French, they can eat anything. They apparently can go anywhere and nothing bothers them. France is pretty hardcore, too. Oh, Gallipoli in World War I. Yes, yes, Swamp Cleaner. Still, the number one fighting force in the world, and we're going to probably have a bit of a debate over this, U.S. Marine Corps. If I had to have a squad of men or a platoon of men guarding me from a zombie apocalypse, I would choose the U.S. Marines every time. If I couldn't have them, honestly, I would choose the fucking Viet Cong. Look at Marine training, see how fucking crazy that is. I couldn't go through that. Actually, met a dude the other day. I had to go briefly to the store. I had to resupply some shit. I was getting some vegetables, and he said he was in the army, but he went crazy. I think that he's cuckoo. He started talking about having the golden eye, and I don't even understand 90% of what he said. He seemed like a cool dude, old army dude, and looked like sort of like a biker dude or something. So, I'm not trying to piss him off by wandering off. Just listen to his story. He was talking about his dad beating the shit out of him, how he had the golden eye, government conspiracies, aliens and stuff like that. It was a very interesting conversation. Not gonna lie. Sean Von Sexton, fuck you, faggot. Fuck the Viet Cong. Yeah, no, I'll take the U.S. Marines over any other fighting force in the entire world. Oh, that's a good point, actually. By Puma. France bitched out of the Panama Canal project. True. Fact check, true. France originally was trying to create the Panama Canal. They decided to stop this endeavor because there was so much attrition. The United States said, it doesn't matter if people die. Whatever, we're going to build the fucking canal. And managed to succeed. Wasted Bonehead, if I had to have a squad, I'd pack a skeleton crew. Sean Munson, fuck you and fuck the Viet Cong. No, I'm just saying that the Viet Cong were a very effective fighting force. They managed to fend off the Chinese twice as well. They were fighting the Pol Pot also. There's only one time, to my knowledge, when Vietnam has actually been successfully subjugated, and, that was under odd circumstances anyway, and that was by France, actually. But no, if I had to have one platoon of dudes around me just to protect me from zombies or something, it would be the U.S. Marines, yeah. Easy. Oh yeah, the punji pits. I've heard about those. They used to take wooden stakes. They would dig a pit. in a path or wherever, and they'd put them in the ground, sharpened stakes, and then they would cover them with human excrement. So that if you fell in the pit, I mean, you probably wouldn't die right away, but you've just been impaled by human shit. That means bacterial infection. That's a big problem. One tall order, Sticks. Have you ever read the Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano 4chan green text shitpost? Just thought about that again and chuckled. No, I haven't, actually. What was the other thing? They had something called the Bouncing Betty. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the idea, but the idea is it's basically like a triggered landmine that shoots up in the air and then sprays everything with bolts. If I remember correctly, the Bouncing Betty. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Sepsis was one of the biggest problems in the Vietnam War, actually, because of the bungee pits. I mean, all you need is for your foot to go through a short wooden stake. It doesn't need to be like a deep pit, like, you've fallen and can't get out or something like that. Um, it only needs to be like a foot or something like that. Easily made, cheap. The resources are already there to create it, basically. All you have to do is shit on the wooden posts, basically, and smear them. Yeah, they had a different. I know that the Bouncing Betty was a German contrivance originally, but I believe that there was uh, it was slightly separate. The Vietnam War, it was a little bit different, if I remember correctly. Let me look it up. Let me look this up. The Spring Mine or Splitter Mine. These mines were designed to launch into the air, detonate, and spread shrapnel, making them highly effective against infantry. Yeah, the S mine. But I believe they were also making other versions of them in the Vietnam War, actually. I mean, either that or I'll have to ask my dad because he was in the Vietnam War. Either that or maybe they took the surplus and they're like, hey, we want to buy these things. These are great. Yes, Geist. They did indeed do that with venomous snakes. They would put snakes in the tunnels and try to drive people out. Also, they would just flamethrower the tunnels. But then most of the tunnels were like ant networks, and so it didn't really do that much. And they would always have, apparently, it was really bad to be drafted in Vietnam if you were the shortest and lightest person in the platoon. Because you were the one that had to go in to the tunnels because nobody else would fit. Imagine how claustrophobic that would be. I'm fortunate to be 6'2". I don't think that I would qualify for that point position. Imagine having to be the first fucking person in the tunnel, and you're like, you never know, there could be a trap over here, there could be a soldier over there, there could be poison over here, it's something like that. God, that must have sucked. There's a reason that they got them drugged up so much. Pilgrim Media, when we get involved in Viet Civil War, bad idea. Yep. Pilgrim Media, read Steal This book by Abby Hoffman. Huh. Do you mean the Anarchist Cookbook? I've heard that term before. Yeah, imagine that you've got like a flak jacket on. Apparently, a lot of the soldiers just fucking took them off and didn't even wear them because they were useless for the most part. And, they went about their business. I'm imagining what it must have been like in the Vietnam War. It's like, all right, I've got my, well, it's not even MRE at that point. I've got my K ration because they were literally continuously using the Korean War rations that they had left over, or a C wrap. Probably the Korean one was better. At least had benzos in it. I got my ration for the day. I wonder if I will be shot. Let me write a letter home to mom and then march 20 miles. That appears to be basically what happened in Vietnam. And that's the average experience, other than for the officers, of course. My dad told me that certain officers, unscrupulous ones, they would get into a helicopter and they would fly briefly over the war zone and then fly back to a safe base. And they would award themselves the medal, or get awarded rather. They would get awarded a medal for having been in a particular combat zone or a particular fight or something like that. And that this happened fairly routinely. This does not surprise me in the least. Yeah, Sean Von Sex One. Sorry I called you an F-word, Sticks. I've been on a diet of weed and coffee, and I'm all out of weed. The Viet Cong shot at my granddad every day for 3 years. Yeah, and my dad too, actually. He has a dossier with some poetry in it, actually, in short stories. And one of them, I read them, one of them has to do with his friend getting blown up in a foxhole, and my dad had his intestines all over him. Yeah. So I don't have any love for the Viet Cong. I'm just respecting their military capabilities because they are formidable. Same with a lot of other militaries. I mean, you look at the fucking Soviets in World War II. I don't have to like the Soviet Union. It's just that they did fight well. I mean, it was basically a Zerg rush, but, you overwhelmed the enemy positions. You did win. You don't have to like the outcome. Certainly didn't, but they did win. Oh, Bristolian. John Kerry. Yeah, swift boats for truth. What was it called? Swift Boaters for Truth? I think it was called that. Like there were people from the same era and they were also on swift boats and shit like that. And then the Republicans contacted them and then they crucified John Kerry. Not that it mattered who won that election anyway. Bush v. Kerry. Yeah, what a choice. What a wonderful choice. I hope we don't have another election like that while I'm still alive. I'd rather die prematurely than have to go through another boring goddamn election like that. Strategery! Lockbox. Oh no, that was Al Gore. Well, I can't even remember most of what John Kerry said because he was so fucking boring. That's probably why he lost. At least Bush is like, okay, he might say something crazy. If we re-elect him, he might say or do something that's zany. Well, that's an advantage over someone who's so goddamn painfully goddamn boring that it's like, you go to sleep even listening to them. And I've met people like that before. Holy shit. Corn Pop, is your dad home? I did war, I love to talk. Yeah, he is, but he's busy right now. Pilgrim Media, they called them Dinks and Slants, then Sir Charles. Wasted Bonehead, when the trees start speaking Vietnamese. Yeah, there's somewhere in the house, there's this great book about humor from the military. And some of it's Vietnam related and some of it's as early as World War I. And there was one, and it was a joke about people who went to military academy. And it was talking about how the soldiers of different ranks would talk about a train. And the sergeant is like, he knocks the train out and chews it up and spits it out. And then the lieutenant is like, and choo-choo daddy choo-choo. I thought that was so funny. I gotta find that fucking book. That was great. Privateer of the East. What are the economic and political advantages and disadvantages to bringing Alberta into the U.S.? They're responsible for a lot of the petrol in California. Nothing but disadvantages. Canada should remain Canada. Unless we're going to annex the entire country, subjugate it entirely, and turn it into one contiguous state so that they don't get a whole shit ton of electoral votes, which they would never accept, it wouldn't make any sense. Not from a standpoint that's not far left. Because quite clearly, Canada is lurching off into the far left, unfortunately. Bretling, yes, I've heard of that. Yeah, pilots used to also sit on encyclopedias and almanacs and stuff like that. They used to pad themselves underneath as much as possible, because if somebody did manage to snipe the plane, that would be a big problem. So they wanted something between them and the bullet. I've got to admit I'm very interested in the Vietnam War, because it's like, if this makes sense, give me a moment. If it makes sense, it's sort of the breach between old school war and new school war. It was the first war in which the old tactics and the old sort of communication methods and so forth were sort of being scrapped. And so it was a transformative war. And it sort of is really breaching the gap between the old and the new, so to speak. The old, like with Korea or something like that, they were using Sherman tanks in Korea, although I think they still use them to an extent in Vietnam as well. The United States military had to modernize fairly rapidly. All of a sudden, you're in the nuclear era. You've got entirely new grades of aircraft. You've got totally different battle conditions. You've got totally different technology. You've got totally different battle rifles. Everything has suddenly changed from what would be considered, vaguely, moderately modified World War II conditions, which didn't work well, by the way, for the U.S. troops in Korea, the Forgotten War, basically, to something that was far newer. You also have the drugging up of the soldiers, experiments, and all sorts of weird shit like that going on. And so, yeah, I would say Vietnam is probably the most interesting war that the United States has actually involved itself in, other than maybe the Civil War. They started drugging people up. They gave them dextrose and all sorts of weird shit. Dextrose and morphine, and people were drugged up all the time and out and listening to Run Through the Jungle while they're running through the jungle, basically. And it must have been quite interesting. Pilgrim Media, Canada's doomed because of false pride. Corn Pop, your dad being a military man like myself, he must be so proud, U.S. Yeah, he was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. I'm proud of him too. One of the youngest sergeants at the time minted, actually. He was like 18, I think, or some shit like that. He had to leave the Marine Corps, though. They basically gave him an ultimatum once his original stay was done. It's basically, you can leave the Marine Corps, become a drill sergeant, or go to officer's school. Well, he didn't want to become an officer, and he didn't want to be a drill sergeant, so he had to leave. He was honorably discharged. Much more than I can do. I'd be like Private Pile in Full Metal Jacket. Are you telling me that you can't even do one push-up? A pull-up? You are a worthless piece of shit, Private Pile. I admit I'm not the strongest person in the world. Although I am good at shooting. Although, for some reason, and I only found this out lately, because right now I'm not allowed to have guns anyway, I'm really, really good at marksmanship with handguns. I can put them all on the target, good grouping and everything like that. I am shit at archery. I don't know why, but I am bullshit at archery. I am an absolute failure. Like, I'd get an F in my class if I tried to take that. I don't know why. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And that's sad because I actually like bows better anyway. Pilgrim Media. I'm a USAF 461 munitions specialist. Things go boom. That sounds fun to me. I'll have to see it sometime. Oh yeah, we've got one more thing to cover. I've got the Bouncing Betty article over this. NASA's Webb captures Neptune's auroras for the first time. You should see these pictures, by the way. Again, link in the description, archived, of course. For the first time, they've managed to actually get pictures of the auroras on Neptune. I'm excited about this. Not because I give a shit about auroras, but because I give a shit about Neptune. This was always my favorite planet as a kid. Neptune was the one that I liked the most. And I think there was one time we had to choose a planet in elementary school and do like a write-up about it. And I chose Neptune, actually. I think I got an A on that one. Because Neptune is great. It's also got like a mini storm, sort of like Jupiter, but not like Jupiter's big red spot. It's a little bit different. So yeah, they've actually managed to get a picture of the auroras that are on Neptune, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Bretling. You are nothing but unorganized, grammastic pieces of amphibian shit. Have you ever seen Full Metal Star Wars? If you want to have a real good chuckle, watch Full Metal Star Wars. They took Sergeant Gunny and they overlapped him onto Darth Vader. So Darth Vader is like, you know, saying like weird shit from Full Metal Jacket, but it's actually in the context of Star Wars. So he's confronting Obi-Wan, and he says like, "Holy Jesus, you owe me for one jelly donut." It's one of my favorite. It's 6 parts actually. It goes all the way through Rogue One. Trust me, you will find it hilarious. I've probably watched it 7 or 8 times actually by now. Privateer of the East. Everyone should do their part and learn about their ancestry. If you are unsure like me, you can use Find a Grave to find and follow the breadcrumbs. Yeah, my ancestry has actually been traced back through the 1500s by my uncle. He managed to trace that. So at least on the Warwick side, I know my ancestry. And on the Hazleton side, it's fairly easily traced. What the fuck is that, Private Pile? If there's one thing I hate, it's an unlocked footbox. Footlocker. Sorry. Wasted Bonehead. Sticks like Neptune. Meanwhile, we got people obsessed with Uranus. Yeah, I'm sure there's at least one person watching that would be obsessed with my Uranus. Happens all the time. You had best unfuck yourself or I will unscrew your head and shit down your neck. One of the most famous lines in movie history. I think there was another one. There's one that actually, there was a little bit of a grammatical error, actually, by Gunny. And I don't know if they wrote this wrong or he said it wrong and they just said, fuck it, we'll just leave it in. But he said, it should take you no less than 10 fucking seconds to negotiate this obstacle. It should be no more than 10 seconds. And I noticed this. It's actually in the Star Wars one too. At the time, I don't know. I'm autistic, I suppose. Mike the Womp. Clank, motherfuckers. Glad the warm weather is back. Golfing and sunbathing in the kayak. I wish it was warmer here. It's like 45 at the moment. Jessica Lindstorm Racism. Early sticks, best 6. Yeah. Yeah, apparently I get more viewers when I go live a little bit earlier, so I'm thinking about moving to the 10 o'clock time slot or something like that. I don't know. Your days of finger-banging old Mary Jane Rottencrotch through her pretty pink panties are over. I loved that. Yeah, Full Metal Jacket is a great movie. Very brutal, but still a great movie. Well acted. Yeah, in general, perfect, actually. Kubrick was pretty great. Uh, I wonder how many times I've seen that one, actually. Probably 4 or 5. But I've watched the Full Metal Star Wars ones even more, ironically, with the voice of Gunny. Just look it up. Trust me. Go onto YouTube and look up Full Metal Star Wars and watch all 6 episodes. Just trust me and thank me later. Yeah, Gunny was a funny dude. The funny thing is, somebody who has to be like that brusque and like forceful in their professional life, especially in a military sense, tends to be like someone who like you can imagine him like playing with fucking dolls and getting his nails done by his daughter or something like that. This is the case for Bob Ross, by the way. Most people don't know this, but Bob Ross was actually in the military. He was a sergeant in the military. And the reason why his voice was so soft is because he's like, I don't like shouting at people. I don't like having to do this. And so then he did the Bob Ross thing. Although it's rather sad. I don't want to darken anyone's day, but the Bob Ross story is sad as fucking fuck. When he was older and dying, they effectively stole his entire estate from him. His son got virtually nothing, and they literally have people forging his material to this day. So it's watered it down. It's impossible to tell which ones are real in some cases. There was a whole documentary about this, and the son was talking about, hey, I never got jack shit, basically. And he recalled one phone call from Bob Ross to the former associates who had been managing him. And he started shouting so loud he thought his voice box would break out. And he was beyond irate, absolutely furious, like to the point where he could have fucking killed somebody. And he probably could have since he had been in the military. But he went absolutely apeshit on these people because he knew that they were trying to steal his intellectual property, trying to steal the rights, and they were successful, unfortunately, in this endeavor. So unfortunately, Bob Ross, who brought us all great deals of happiness, died absolutely miserable. Isn't that a wonderful world? Wasted. So when we getting back to Andy Six Logs, sliding down your Hogg gullet, of course. Yeah, well, I still post Andy Six memes on 4chan. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, Bob Ross, the people around him, especially his manager and certain members of his family, were shit fucks, effectively, and they still are shit fucks. Bob Ross himself was a really nice guy. Like, genuinely gave a shit. Seems like the people around him didn't give a shit so much. Other than his son and a few other people, he had no allies at all. He relied upon other people to help him with his managerial things. He shouldn't have done that, but he had no choice. Mike the Wop. Arlie Ermy was just supposed to be teaching an actor how to act like a drill instructor. He was so good they just asked him to do it, and they told the actor to split. Exactly. Anyways, I'm going to go offline now. I've gone an hour and 20, so I need to get some fucking food. I've got Greek pasta on tap, all sorts of Japanese food. I've got everything under the sun, motherfucker. So we're going to go eating something. And then I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to scrape the news, of course, and hopefully do another live stream and so forth. And we'll have some fun. Some sticks, hacks, and fun. My Blitzy. That's about all. Peace out.